one of the things that's happened to human beings, to humanity over the years is that despite the fact that we have a big majority of people that are living on this planet, and there's only a small part that is run by people that are trying to control us, that are controlling us. It makes you wonder why things are that way and why we don't have a voice that is powerful and heard. And I think it's what's happened to America. We as citizens don't appreciate that you have to work hard to sustain our constitutional republic that's run with a democratic twist. You have to work hard to maintain a voice that runs the government, because we are the government. And if we don't do that, it doesn't take long for people who are greedy, evil, controlling, that are not interested in our welfare, that want to use us to do the things that are happening to us today in the world. It gives them a big edge. And so if you may have a few thousand people running 8 billion people, something's wrong with that picture. You can't get complacent and just assume that what our forefathers did, that we have some credit for. We don't. They did that. We didn't do that. They did that. And for lots of reasons that are understandable, we've let it go. And what can we do to recapture that?
We have to remember the context of the founders of this country. Because remember, people forget. It's so easy to live in America and not remember this was an experiment.
Absolutely.
America was an experiment. Italy was an experiment. Italy was built in the 1700s, when the U.S. was coming into its birth, had been built on the Roman Empire. Before the Roman Empire, it was the Etruscans. Before the Etruscans, it was the native people, the Itals, who lived there. So many of the places in the world had deep, deep histories of rule and governance that they were basically evolving out of fighting for, being fought by other people. That's not an experiment. That is just surviving. Most countries in the world, China, Africa, pick the continent, the countries there all were coming out of a very long history
of oppression.
Of oppression in various ways. Now, the United States, yes, we had the native people here. The First Nations people were living here. They had their world. The Iroquois already had a nation with a constitution before the U.S. even had a constitution. The U.S. Constitution was based on the Iroquois Constitution.
Really?
Yeah, but that's another story. But for the Europeans who came, it was an experiment because they had never had a world that they didn't have a king or a tyrant ruling them.
And there was a big risk to them as they did that.
A massive risk.
They would have been butchered.
They already had the Brits on their ass, right? Those founders already had the French, which was a tyrannical government at the time, on their ass. You already had the Spanish. Remember the Spanish Inquisition? That had already controlled South Americans working their way up into North America. So there were three major forces at work already to own the land that this group of Europeans wanted to create as a new experimental way of being. That couldn't have been easy.
You know, and that was only about 3 or 4% of the population that did that. Those people that signed the Declaration of Independence were signing their death certificate if things didn't work out. And then when we all saw that we had a chance to do it, everybody started to join in, and then a movement started, and it became a reality that we would become a sovereign country if we won that war. And they did. Because we did not. Yeah. They did that. We're living on the what they contributed, and we haven't valued what they risked to give us the chance to have a country that's sovereign and a people that would be a government's run of, by, and for the people.
Yeah, and then the reason why everybody got behind it was because we all know at the deepest level, you've got to be free. You got to be free to say what you want, to live like you want, to have religion and spirituality the way you want. So the people got behind it. Maybe they weren't as intellectual as the Hamiltons and the Jeffersons and the Franklins, Monroes, these different people, but those were 30-year-old kids who started this country. You forget, Thomas Jefferson was 28.
Wow.
Benjamin Franklin was the oldest, and I think he was only 41 or something like this. So these were young people with that heart saying, we've got to do it differently, or we're dead. The British Empire will take us over, which they were doing.
Give me liberty or give me death.
So
that's right.
So it was an ideal. Yes, it was idealistic, and it didn't last too long as an ideal, because within less than 100 years of the founding, the first president got assassinated. That was Lincoln. So think about the context. That wasn't too long after the signing of the Declaration.
No.
That wasn't so long. 60 years after the country even became a country. So it didn't last long.
You have a big responsibility as a citizen of this country because of what they did to sustain all those things that were so easily taken away or given back.
Yeah.
You have to do the work of being the government.
And being a sovereign person. See, I don't put it on the government. I put it on the individual to say, am I sovereign? Whether I'm a Latino in this country, whether I'm a Jordanian in this country, whether I'm Italian, whether my family was 15th generation puritanical, pilgrim, or I'm a black African who came here, for whatever means, you're here now. And each person who is here now has a right to freedom, but they also have a responsibility. So when you say work hard, what I hear is I've got to work hard to be sovereign. Because if I only want from the government to give me the safety, if I only want what I deserve, if I only want to be comfortable, guess what?
It starts with the individual for sure.
And if it doesn't, the government and the leaders who are greedy and idiots and just fall prey to that vibration of what it means to be in power will eat you alive. And that's what we're seeing.
Well, there are people like that are just basically evil.
And fearful.
And they're fearful too. Yeah. And they want to be controlling, and they've done that. And so basically they have bought and paid for people who we elect. And those people who are supposed to be representing their constituency, that's us, don't get the respect of that. So what happens is whoever paid for the elections where you're spending a couple of $1 million to get in are telling the people who are elected what to do. Absolutely. So they aren't following the rules of the Constitution.
And they never intended to. They were attracted to the power, to the money. I mean, every senator.
And the importance.
Yes. Look at the U.S. senators, Len. It's so sad. I mean, it's never going to change from the top down, because every senator who comes in making $150,000 a year ends up being a multimillionaire.
I know.
Right? So this is not a game.
They're indebted or they're blackmailed into behaving the way that their handlers want them to.
But 90% of them go in knowing that, because they're in the vibration of, I can get what I can get because I have to survive, and to survive better I need to accumulate a lot of money and power. That's the illusion.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite of the reality.
Yeah.
Because it's what you give, it's not what you get.
But in that world, when it's fed and when that reality is supported, it becomes the common reality of those who control those who are not sovereign.
Yeah.
We do not have a sovereign nation because we don't have sovereign individuals. I don't blame the government. If somebody is going to try to make $20 million being a senator, and that's the game they want to play, who am I to say against it? But I've allowed that to happen. The people have allowed this to happen. We continue to vote for parties. Both parties are insane.
Yeah, they're both owned by the same people.
So I don't want to get political here, but the fact is I want to bring it back down where the real problem is. It's not in the government. It's in the individual.
That's right.
It's a hard one to take. I mean, nobody wants to hear that because it's much easier to blame people.
If you don't stand up for what's right and take a position of sovereignty, what would you expect is going to happen?
Exactly.
Because you don't have representatives that you elect that are representing you. They're representing somebody else. And that's what this country is built on. So unless we take the responsibility, Pogo was right. We found the enemy.
It's here.
The bad guys are only able to be bad guys because we don't do anything about it. Yeah. We've got 8 billion people, in the world that if they for one day said no to the things that are being done that are wrong, would change the world overnight.
But if the individual is driven by fear to survive, if the individual is complacent, I don't want to make waves, I don't want to get in trouble, that's fear as well. If the individual is driven by anger, those people don't know what they're doing. Any one of those emotions that drives the average person, one, it takes you from heart-centered sovereignty. And second, it creates a vibration around the fear or anger that is exactly what the leaders are feeding off of.
That's right.
Because their anger and fear gives them the right and the ticket to be greedy, to take advantage of people. So we are creating it.
Yeah.
That's so hard for people to get, but we've got to say, what are we doing that is allowing this insanity to take place?
It's what we're not doing.
We're not being heart-centered. We're not being non-compliant. I mean, when you say, I will not comply, and people can say, well, I have to comply. No, I make lots of choices all the time, every day, not to comply. Out of principle. Will it change anything? I don't know. I don't care. I know who I carry as a vibratory field by not complying.
That takes courage, because we live outside. We're living in a box that's not supporting what we need. It doesn't support community. It doesn't support individual power. You've got to get outside that box now. And if you can't do that, you can't see change. And if you feel disenfranchised and you feel like, what can I do as an individual? It's the wrong attitude for Americans, or for anybody. If you want to sustain what you believe in and what you think is right and form a government that supports that, like our Constitution and Bill of Rights was designed to do, you have to work for it.
Right. And you have to work on yourself for it. And if you point outside and want other people to change first, you've given away your power.
That's right.
So if each person starts saying, where can I not comply? Where can I not feed the monster? Where can I move away from my own fear and anger and come into my heart resonance, and then know that you're feeding the energy that way? People say, what can I do? You can do a lot. Each person.
Well, you have to.
Right. If each person changes the way they perceive the reality will change.
Look what happens when you don't do that.
This is what we got. And people are saying it's getting worse and worse. Well, it's getting worse and worse because people are doing less and less. And it's not the overt thing that you do. It's the internal work. And that's what we're not taught.
Well, one thing we can do a little bit differently is we can look at the things we can agree upon. Mm-hmm. And build on those.
Yeah, and that's what community is all about.
That's what People United is all about.
That's what People United's whole message is become sovereign and powerful by yourself, in yourself, and then open up community to your friends and loved ones, and then your family, and then the people that are around you. You might not agree with everything.
It's grassroots stuff.
Right. And you may not agree with all their stances on issues, but the issues are what take us away from our truth. The issues are issues. I have opinions. What are they? Opinions are like haircuts. Everybody's got one, right?
That's right.
So who cares about the haircuts? Who cares about the opinions? You should have an opinion. But when it comes to community, you should throw all those out, unless they completely affect the safety of other people. But if it's just opinions about things, that's the game. The power wants you to have opinions to go in and split and divide and conquer.
That's what's happened. So that's why it's from the grassroots that we can do this. We're not going to do it from the top down because we lost control of our government.
Absolutely.
And now we have to rebuild it and go through the same things that our forefathers did, and maybe at the same risk.
But they had the courage, and courage comes from the Latin word cur, which means heart. So they were truly heart-centered. Yes, Hamilton was a businessman. I get it. Jefferson had a plantation. I mean, I understand the reality, but there's a reality, and then there's what you're doing within that reality.
Yeah.
And when it's bigger than yourself, that's when it's meaningful. When you define yourself as, I am an entangled entity, a consciousness that's entangled with everyone and everything around me. That seems so out there, but it's not out there. It's the one thing that will give us the safety for a beautiful future if we remember how connected we are. That's the essence of community.
We have a lot more in common than our differences.
But we've been told otherwise.
We've been divided.
We've been divided.
And so we each have our little silo, that isn't necessarily compatible with the silo that's next to you or the one that's on the other side.
What do we see when we bring people together in the different People United events we have?
You see love coming out. You see community developing. You see loving and caring. People listen. It's a place where we're giving love, graciously accepting love, and not trying to control it, not trying to be important, or not trying to be rich, because the richness actually is in what you give, not in what you take. And love is not for taking.
And when we see people who are obviously conservative hugging a person who's obviously liberal.
Oh, yeah.
And I see...
the boundaries are melting.
Yeah, I see that, and they don't even realize they're doing it. Because if they talked about issues, they wouldn't even be in the same room.
Right.
But when they talk about human connection, all of a sudden the rest of the details don't matter. That's why I know in my heart the details don't matter. The issues don't matter. They're just a trick to separate us. When we come together on what's really meaningful and we really build those heart connections, when we come back to the issues as a community, we might find we're much more in the middle. We're much more in a compromising give and take willingness to solve those issues than we were when we were divided and think that we're in an adversarial situation.
I think community supersedes division.
Yes.
And if we can remember that and have the courage to do something as an individual and then build on that, there is limitless power that we have to be able to do the right thing that's heart-centered, and our energy fields interconnect. And when they do, the synergy builds. So there were more than three of us together. It's a lot more than when there's one of us. And that grows logarithmically as the number grows. And that's how we begin to start a movement that gives us back what we once had. And I think
maybe we've really never had it.
Well, we never sustained it.
Yeah, we never sustained it. So I'm of the mind it's not going back to what we maybe once had.
Okay.
But we can see what worked, even in moments.
Yeah, and learn from the mistakes.
And learn from it, even going back to tribal times.
I agree.
Maybe we have to go back 40,000 years.
It's okay.
In humanity, it doesn't matter. Time is an illusion in this thing. When did it work? When were there moments when a collective superseded the fear, superseded the adversarial situation, superseded the weather, the climate change, whatever happened to be, because climate change has gone on forever. There's so many things in this reality that will be a chance for you to be a victim of it. But when did the collective move beyond it?
I wonder if the Aboriginals or groups like that did, although they have lots of problems.
No, they had to, because at least in the Australian Aboriginals, we know at least 40,000 years. Many will say 200,000 years.
Isn't that something?
They never had a major war. How could a continent of millions of people never have a war?
So it's been done.
It's been done. And was it perfect? No. Was there border skirmishes? Yes. In Hawaii and Aboriginal societies in North America and Australia, we know the history enough. But they sustained. Why did they sustain and not kill each other? Because at some level they knew there was a way that we can collaborate as a community. And the way that Aboriginals in Australia did, because I used to live in Australia and I loved finding this out, is they came up with these kind of spiritual explanations for why you may come into my land to kill a bird that I felt was sacred. But I went into your land to take okra that you thought was sacred. And we said, they have to do it because they don't understand, and we will allow a little bit of that. And they allowed each other to do this and had soft boundaries on what wasn't really meaningful. At some level, they realized that's just part of the energy flow.
So maybe they respected the community, even if it wasn't just their own.
They did, and they never went to war. Once the people realized there's a place to allow for things I don't believe in to happen, and then when the other tribe did the same, coexistence. What a unique idea. That means let go of the issue for the bigger collective good.
Wow.
But you have to be here in heart center to get there. And that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying in People United. That's all you and I have always done together. In the healing world where we both come from, we know that the healing happens in the heart first, not in the hospital, not in the medicine,
No.
right? Not in the protocol. It happens first when the individual says, I am already healed. I am whole, complete, and perfect. And when they have that self-love, all of a sudden the rest of the symptomology just seems to go away quickly.
Well, I think disease, however you want to look at it,
Yeah.
stems from spiritual dis-ease.
Absolutely.
So the spirit becomes something that affects how the body operates in ways that are not ideal. And when we see that as healers, if we're going to be healers, then it's not about a drug or a surgery or a technology. It's about an understanding and a willingness to go back to the deepest roots of what you are and deal with that. And the world that we live in today is messed up enough because of greed, because of wanting to be important, because of controlling, has suffered a great injustice. Mm-hmm. And we have gone along with it because we're too complacent and we're maybe busy thinking about ourselves rather than the world, the bigger world, from a heart space approach. Yeah. I mean, the potential that we have is enormous that way. And it's not like the field of medicine today doesn't do some things to relieve symptoms. It absolutely does. But it does nothing in the way of spiritual growth. And it misses the boat just because it fixes the biochemistry and the anatomy doesn't mean that it's fixing the spirit. And so you're temporarily removing the issue that is causing disease and camouflaging it with some artificial technique that's not natural by doing things that have never been in a human body before because they don't belong there, and thinking that you're a healer. You're not. I can tell you after 60 years of practicing medicine, it took a while for me to get that, but I've had a hard time trying to convince my colleagues that that's where the action is.
But they've been so conditioned, you know.
Or they've been brainwashed. Yeah. They've been beat up. When you go through medical training, which is militaristic, mm-hmm. you don't do what they want you to do. You're out.
Right. And I saw that. I mean, I dropped out of my medical training, as you know.
Well, you were smart.
Well,
smarter than I was.
I saw the writing on the wall,
yeah.
and I saw the pressure of the pharmaceutical companies, and I understand that, and I see how seductive it is for people to want to be a good doctor and fix people and help people. But if you know the history from the Rockefeller influence, remember Rockefeller ran Standard Oil. That was a petroleum company, and when you think of the money that he and his son ended up having, that basically started the American Medical Association, that created the Department of Education in the United States. Yeah. And you saw how a whole generation was hypnotized to thinking materialistically and petroleum-based products and money making out of Big Pharma. It's okay. I mean, Big Pharma does great things. There's same things that help people who are alive.
Well, it's a business. You have to remember it's a business. It's not a service primarily. Yeah. They're responsive to their stockholders, not to you as a patient. Yeah. But if they find something that makes you better, all the better, because then they're going to sell it even better. But it shouldn't be about money or what you're getting from it. It should be what you give. Yeah. The real richness and the beauty of living on this planet is that what you give is what really makes things better, because the heart-centered approach is built from love, which is giving, not for taking. It's for sharing. It's for graciously receiving. Mm-hmm. It's not for taking. You can't own love. That's narcissistic.
But sadly, that's not put into the educational process.
No, the opposite is.
When we have a Department of Education that is based on the intellect, that's based on survival, and even the survival part's been pulled out because there's so many programs in school that have been pulled out to help a student survive. Home ec is not there in schools anymore. Yeah. Art is not there in schools. The things that really help us survive at the core is not there, and certainly not love. No. I think it's a time to return back to what it means to truly love, to really be heart-centered, and watch how quickly the world will change, how quickly doctors will be back to the doctor I had when I was a kid, who hugged us, who
cared about you,
cared about us,
who listened to you,
came to our home. I mean, I think this doctor, beautiful Dr. Rye, charged my mom $1 per kid for every checkup.
That's
And
great.
came to the house, and he brought food and stuff like. I mean, that was the old-fashioned way of doing it, because you really cared about the health.
You cared about the person.
About the person.
And who and what they are. Yeah, we've lost that because we become focused on material wealth and importance and in power.
And specialties.
And it's not about that. Everything is so compartmentalized.
Right.
I mean,
how do you see the whole person?
You got the foot doctor. There are foot doctors. There are eye doctors, ear doctors who don't know the first thing about the heart or the heartfelt stuff or the brain. I mean, when we look at things in a reductionistic way, it takes away from the whole. When I think of a person, I don't think about liver, kidneys, brain, eyes, feet. Yeah. I think of the whole person, and it's a spiritual thing. And so you're not complete if any one of those aspects of who you are is not functioning right. And if it's not functioning right, go back to the spirit and see where the spirit has been injured and affected the body in some way to give you an incentive. It's a gift to be able to, if something is wrong and you need to work on this somehow at a spiritual level to make it not be a problem anymore.
Right.
That's healing.
Right.
Medicine is about fixing symptoms.
And that's good. A lot of people want a quick fix. Again, that's why I say
who doesn't want a quick fix?
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with modern people, is that we tend to look at the quick fix to move on because we've been programmed to move on. We've been conditioned just to get through, make sure you go back to work. You can't not work because you won't make enough money for this week.
Okay, so you got a world full of sick people.
Right. So it's a person. It's
people who don't have symptoms but are still sick.
Sick deeply, because the core of most disease I found, and I've worked with thousands of people over decades, like you, it's an emotional, spiritual dis-ease. Once that is repaired, I'm working with somebody right now, has some skin problems. She goes, I'm otherwise healthy. I just don't know about this. I can't get rid of this. I, as an objective healer, can see that she has some deep emotional issues, some self-love things and some other self-worth things. When they get fixed, the skin will get fixed. To make that connection, though, means we have to suspend the training.
It's difficult.
Yeah, but once you do, and once people experience that, they go, wow, I get it now. I will never fall prey to my emotions to let my emotions control me. I will look the next time I get really angry and chronic anger, because it's going to lead to some dis-ease. That connection to me is the miracle of healing.
Agreed. Well, it's been an interesting conversation that looks beyond what's on the surface. Mm-hmm. We get stuck into a reductionistic look, a way of looking at the pieces rather than looking at the whole person or the whole world or the whole universe, and realize that we're an aspect of that. But it's not about individual organs or about individual diseases. It's about who you are, how you run your life, what isn't running smoothly the way it was intended to be, how you can build resonance with the field that you have that's healing for other people and for the whole universe. We have a lot to learn, and to live in a dystopian world that's on the wrong track for healing, we got to go back to the shamans, thousands of years ago. That's what they did.
Right, because they understood the role of nature, for one, and they understood the mind, body, spirit nature of healing.
That's right.
If we are only caught in the body, which is what the modern, pharmacology and allopathic medicine is, you've missed 2/3. And what stool can stand on one leg? So we need the body, mind, and spirit. And the shaman understood that the spirit part was also nature. We're not getting enough natural light. We're not being outside enough.
Live in an asphalt jungle.
And these computer thingies are getting us all trapped in a particular blue light vibe. So we don't have to talk about all the specificity of it all, but that's there. But if you come back to trusting at that deep spirit level, all of a sudden your intuition will let you know, maybe I'm eating too much sugar, maybe too much fried food, maybe I'm not outside enough. Everybody knows what they need to do to change, don't you think?
Absolutely. When I practice as a medicine, as a doctor, If I listened to my patient long enough, they'd tell me what they had. They know the diagnosis.
Yes.
And if I listened even longer, they'll tell me what they need. So all I have to do is be a good listener. Now, if I intervene and write 3 or 4 prescriptions and help their symptoms, what have I done?
You've prevented them from healing. Not a healer. You have now done the opposite.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't want that. They'll take that in a minute. Get rid of my cancer. Get rid of my heart attack. Get rid of all the problems that I have, and I'll pay you lots of money. Well, I understand that, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah. And we all are longing for the depths of becoming whole.
That's about love.
Yeah.
We all crave love. We want to be loved. We want to be connected. We want to have energy fields that are resonant with everything else that there is. And we're doing things that defeat that. Yeah. And in actuality, by having more money, more power, and more greed, we're doing the opposite of what will get you that love that you crave.
Because it takes you away from heart resonance.
That's right.
And that's the sad thing. We tend to accumulate thinking it's going to make us a better person, and in fact, it takes us away. So these are the interesting dichotomies and the paradox of this world. But I believe the first place to start, like you do, and why we've been friends for so long, coming back to heart space seems to be the first big step. If you want to make a big change in your life, ask yourself, am I making this decision from heart resonant, intuitive mind place?
Trust it and have courage to explore with curiosity how that works.
Amen.
Amen.